Welcome back to Stacy So-and-So and day 4 of Vlogmas. So as promised, today I'm going to be making a Christmas stocking. I actually have 3 to make, but I'm only going to do 1 in the video. I had to think about, what kind of materials I wanted to use for our stockings. And I've decided that for mine, since I love plaid, I am going to use patchwork plaid for mine. And then for my husband and our dog Mo, I'm going to upcycle some denim. So I'm going to do patchwork denim. And then the pieces that fold down on the top, I'm going to do mine in denim and theirs in coordinating plaid to my stocking. And I think they'll be really pretty hanging at our fireplace. But today I'm going to make the plaid one. As I finish the other stockings, I will include those in a video later on just so you can see how they turned out. So let's get started. So first you're going to have to decide what fabric you want to use. I took 10 by 10 plaid squares, cut them down into 5 by 5 inch squares, sewed them all together, and then using coordinating thread, put decorative stitching on top of all of them. And of course, you're going to need your pattern, cutting tools, and measuring tools. If you don't have a pattern to use for the stocking like I do, I wanted to show you how you could actually trace one out. And I'm not even that great at drawing, but I was able to do this with a ruler, pencil, and some freehanding. I just grabbed a piece of wrapping paper that I had. And the first thing I did was I drew this line. So if you want to base your measurements off this is based off of the stocking that I already have. I drew a straight line first, 16 inches down. And then I measured the width. The width of the stocking is 6.5 inches. So I just started at the top and started making little marks down the side so that it was 6.5 inches wide. I started to just fill in with line. And then I thought about, well, how far is it from the arc to the heel? So I measured this pattern. It's 7.5 inches. So I just drew a little dot here. And then I drew a little dot 7.5 inches out. And then I just started freehanding just some little dashes just to kind of fill it in. Then I measured this for, it's like, well, from where the arc is to the toe, how far is it? Again, 7.5 inches. So I just made a little dot down here and then just started doing little dashes with my pencil and just freehanding around. And then once I had to erase a couple of times, but after a while, after about 3 tries, I got a shape that I really liked. And then once I did that, I just went over it with a black magic marker. Sorry, Mo is trying to help. Thank you, Mo. So just went all the way around with the black magic marker so it's easier to see. Now I do want to have a piece that folds down across the top. So I did I would decide I want to come 3.5 inches down. And then I went to 6 3/4 across so that when that top folds down, it's not super tight. So that was that piece, of course, was very simple to do. So overall, for someone who can't draw like myself, you can sketch out a simple pattern. Now, when you go to cut this out, if you decide to do this, you're going to want to add about a 1/2 inch all the way around so that you have room for seam allowance when you sew it together. Okay, so once you have all your fabric squares sewed together, you're going to put them right sides together. So this is the correct side, and then I want to turn this one this way and line them up. There we go. Now, this fabric that I purchased is, you can see all the strings. It is terrible as far as fraying. So I think I am actually going to have to cut a lining piece. I'm going to use this red material right here. So first we're going to just decide where we want to lay our pattern piece. Now remember, I'm going to have to cut a 1/2 inch outside all the way around so that I have seam allowance. So I think I kind of like where that's laying, and I'm just going to put down some fabric weights because this is cardboard and it would be very difficult to kind of cut through that. So I'm going to be sewing and cutting with my little chickens. All right, so once you get that done, go ahead and cut out your stocking, like I said, with a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. And if you're going to line yours, go ahead and cut out your lining fabric the exact same way. Meet me back here and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so once you have your lining pieces cut out and your stocking pieces, your outside stocking pieces cut out, be sure you have them right sides together, and then go ahead and pin so that they don't shift while you're sewing or taking them over to your sewing machine. So I'm just going to put a few in, and once I do that, once I get them all pinned together, we're going to sew all the way around. We're going to leave the top open on both of these. We're just going to sew all the way around the rest of the stocking, and then do the same on the lining. We're going to sew all the way around, leave the top open, and we're going to sew it together with a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, which will be very good for this fabric because I said this fabric is really pretty, but it frays something terrible. In fact, I ended up having to sew some of these squares together with my serger because it got to be so bad. So go ahead and get your pieces pinned together, then take them to your machine and just sew all the way around the outside, leaving the top open on the outside fabric and the lining fabric. And then meet me back here. Okay, so I went ahead and turned the outside part of the stocking right side out. So now I'm going to take my lining piece. I'm going to leave it wrong side out, and I'm going to, actually, you know what I'm going to do first? Just so that it goes well around the corners, I'm just going to give it some little snips. This does help on curved edges. Just be careful when you do this not to hit your stitches, because then you have to go back to your machine. So I'm just going to do it like around the toe and the heel, just a little bit, just so I know it'll have good shape. All right, so now you're going to take your lining piece and shove it with wrong side out. Remember, you want the wrong side to the wrong side. So this is facing right side out, this is facing wrong side out. Just take your stock, take it down, put it into your stocking. And you can feel around in there. Yep, it's doing good. Oh, more strings. There we go. And then line up the top. There we go. So now we got our lining and our stocking, and we're ready to move on to the next part. So I've decided, like I said, I'm going to do patchwork denim stockings for my husband and our dog Mo. And so they're going to have patchwork plaid across the top of their stocking, and I'm decided to put denim across mine. So I went ahead and cut out my pattern piece. Remember, this is 3.5 by 6 3/4. So I cut out 2 pieces. I'm now going to sew them down the seam and then hem along the edge that's going to fold over. So we'll do that, and then I'll show you how I'm going to attach this all together. And then we'll also have to add a loop. So something I hadn't thought about till just now. So let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and get this done. If you're doing the fold over piece, go ahead and seam down either side and hem. Now, before I add the cuff to the top of the stocking, I'm going to give this a really good press first. So the lining piece is in here. We're just going to Give it a good press with some steam, because especially with the fabric I chose, this will make it so much easier for the next step. So the next thing I'm going to do, now that I've got this all pressed, I'm going to turn the outside fabric under for a hem, and then I'm going to turn the inside fabric up so that you end up with it sandwiched together like this. Then I'm going to press it again before I take the cuff and sandwich it between the outer fabric and the lining fabric. On. And now I also took time to make a little loop so that I'm able to hang my stocking. This is, it's about 7 inches. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make a little loop. I'm just going to stitch across the bottom so it stays as a little loop, because what you're going to have to do is go inside of your stocking between the cuff and the lining and pin your little loop in place. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to stitch all the way around the end, and then we can see how our stocking looks. And with that, our stocking is done. So a couple of things I want to share. One, I originally started to line this just because of the fray factor, but I'll tell you, I'm really glad because the fabric is thin. I'm glad I lined it because it gives it just a little bit more body. Look how nice it holds its shape. So if you're using a quilter's cotton or something that's thin, you might want to go ahead and consider lining it. Now, when I do the denim ones next, I'm going to be doing the boot part in denim with the plaid cuff. So at that point, I may go ahead and line the cuff just so it stays nice, but I don't think I'm going to have to worry about lining the body because the denim has such strength to it and such body, and it holds its shape really, really well. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I know my method on putting things together might be different than yours, and that's fine. This was just a different way. I wanted to show you how I was doing it. If you have a different way of lining stockings and things, please be sure to do a video and share it. I think the more information that is out there in the community, the better. So thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. I'll see you again tomorrow, and happy sewing.